This conference will now be recorded.
Yes, Priyanka, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. And did you get a chance to have a look on the code base? Do you have any queries?
No, because I just got recordings today.
Okay. Are you comfortable with that? Or do you have any questions,
I mean, I
clarifications?
haven't looked. I haven't looked at the recordings because I'm getting calls from the morning 9 when I
Okay, okay,
got
fine.
recordings today. So I will look at tonight. And
Okay.
also, I told you that I had an interview on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we have a second round on Thursday, and it's
Okay.
on Angular 2 and microservices. So, I will have proxy, but any suggestions?
Okay. So Angular 2, I think I don't have a clear idea about that because that
Mhm.
is fully component based. You can have another person. I'll tell you about the microservices. So in Node.js also we can write microservices. Generally, what is a microservices in the sense? There are two kind of services we can say. One is web service, another one is API service or microservices. Okay, web services in our code base we have written something, right? What we have done is we have written, we have tried to do some MVC architecture with controllers and the services, and that will connect to the Couchbase database or downstream systems, and it can render the HTML pages also. So what we saw is we just wrote some lines in the index file and we put on to the view folder, and by restarting the server, by hitting the proper URL, we got some page that is rendered to the browser, right?
Yeah.
This is called a web application, or we can say that as web service. So whereas in the microservices, there won't be any web pages would be rendered. So simply microservices are used for doing some tasks. So you can hit that service and that will give you some responses. Based on the response, you can do or you can pass in your application. That is
Okay.
called a microservice.
Mm-hmm.
Even in our application also, we used something like HTTPS request response routine for getting some user details, right? In the downstream systems, we used some URL. If we hit that URL using request model, that was giving you back some response, correct? So
Yeah.
that is we can call as microservices. So what generally
Oh,
do people is you can use any kind of language for writing a microservices. That may be a Node.js or Java or Python, anything. So you will write a service and you can deploy into a particular server with particular port number. So
okay.
that would be exposed using HTTP through web service call, and that can be connected through TCP connections. Generally,
Okay.
we will say that as microservices. There are so many microservices are available in the market nowadays. Simply for doing some task. For example, if you go for Amazon, they are using AWS, Amazon Web
AWS.
Services, right? Yeah, they have deployed so many microservices in that. If you want, you can pay them, and they will give you the URL. That URL will do some particular task for you. For example, for sending message queues in some real-time examples for like Comcast, right? if
Mm-hmm.
if in the Comcast systems, generally what the users do means user will use to register that for a particular show or particular episode, right? So if you
Okay.
register means on that particular time the message will be coming to your mobile. Like in next half hour you are going to see some series or movies in the Comcast. Through that network. So those messages things should be handled by Amazon. So for that and all, they would have deployed some microservices in their systems, and that will give you the response. That they will use that Amazon Web Service microservices, and they will connect with their Comcast systems for sending messages. They won't write their own messaging systems. So
Okay.
that the service itself handle the queue things, everything, and queue timings, everything. That is called microservices. Do you get
Okay.
any basic idea about microservice now?
Yeah. So they are said they will ask for Spring Cloud, Spring Boot, like that microservice knowledge they want.
Yes, Spring Cloud and Spring Boot. You mean that is that comes under Java side?
Yeah,
Spring Boot. Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
It's a Java UI developer post.
Okay, okay. Right, right. Anyway, the microservice concept is common for everything, but now we are looking into Node.js. In the
Mhm.
same way, in the Spring Boot also we can write microservices.
Yes. Okay.
There also, I think, in Spring Boot also there is a MVC concept is working. They will be having one common XML file that
Mhm.
will hold all the controller details like what we are having, right? That, for example, slash get user details. So they used to have that XML file for all the controller details. Again, they have some more layer called service layer. They will send back to that. So everything is based on that MVC structure. Controllers and services layer. Services layer would be directly connected with database. You need to tell those points.
Okay.
Okay. And Angular 2 also it's fully component based. Whenever you come to the Angular first version, you can write everything in component by component in the UI.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you're writing a pop-up means you can write a single controller for that pop-up only, and you can reuse those components. So fully everything is component-based. A particular component contains a TS file and a HTML file and a test script also. So you can write a code for a particular component. And I mean particular component can contain a particular piece of HTML, and so what are things to be connected with that HTML can be written on that particular TS file, and that can be tested with that particular test file. So everything will be wrapped as a component, and that would be deployed. I mean that can be built using Webpacks, and they will deploy.
Okay.
That's how the Angular 2 is working. Simply the component based.
Mm-hmm.
Have you prepared for that interview?
Sorry?
I mean, have you prepared for that interview?
No, I haven't. I mean, yeah, I will look
Okay.
into the tutorials point and all, but as I said, they ask for some real-time questions. I mean,
Yes.
when you do this, when you work here, and when you face this issue, what do you do? And like when I have no experience on that, I cannot answer those questions.
Okay. So I mean, if you go for the microservices means you can prepare for these kind of questions, like how you will authenticate the user. That's one of the question because you are going to deploy one microservice now, right?
Mhm.
As an user, I can hit from my system, and you are also can hit from your system, right? I should
Mhm.
ensure that the proper user is coming inside.
Yeah.
I shouldn't allow to everyone to come into my system and
Mhm.
access my data.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
This would be one of general question if you are going
Oh.
for some microservices or any
Mhm.
other services, web services. Now we are developing some a small sample project, right? Here
Yeah.
also, now we are hitting from the browser and Postman. This is giving us response. But in real-time scenarios, if you are going for a bank website or any insurance website, means not all the users should get this kind of data by just hitting the URL, right? So we need to do some middleware layers for authenticating the user, whether particular user is coming, and we should ensure that proper users are coming, right? The authentication and authorization. You just have a look on those things. Generally, in Node.js, we'll use one module called the passport.
Okay.
Okay, okay,
Mhm.
that passport module will handle everything, and I'll if they are asking the questions in particular Spring Boot means I'll tell you one overall algorithm how general systems will handle. Okay,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
in generally, let's take an example that in the Spring Boot is your microservice and the
Mhm.
front end is an Angular. Okay,
Mhm.
so now as an user I'm logging in. Okay, so I mean Arun is logging in, and whenever you are trying to logging in, the first hit will go to the service. They will
Oh.
check my username and password, and they will just pass my username and password. Actually, the password would be encrypted from the Angular side. The encrypted password would be sent back to the server, and in server side, they will take my username and password. First, they will check with the database whether this user is valid user or not. If it is a
Mhm.
banking website, they will everyone have their own databases, right? They will be having their user details in the database. If I'm a valid user, they will use some modules or some kind of tokens. They will just use this word token. They will create one token for me, and they will set that on the center of the response, and they will send back to the user. I mean, they will send back on the first request itself in the login request. Okay.
Okay.
So in the login request, now a particular key or particular token is sent back to the Angular. Now, what Angular people will do is they will take that from the header. and they will set their on their cookies. The cookies will be handled in the browser level. They will set on the cookies, and whenever again they are making a request from the particular user or the particular browser, they will send us back that particular token to the server. So here the server will check for the token. If the token is there and the token is valid, they will allow them to access the data. Otherwise, immediately they will send like it's an invalid user, or you need to give the proper credentials.
Okay.
This is how a general system will work. So for achieving this, different technologies will have different methodologies. Suppose if you're going to Node.js, they will be using something called the passport. It's a module we will use to create JWT, that is JavaScript Web Token. So, and you can ask me how we are going to generate the token, right? Whether if the token is found during the network from Angular to the service, what will happen? Because hackers can hack the token and they can use that token to access our data, right? If it is a
Yeah.
banking website, means we need more security. So
Yeah.
for that, how they will generate the token is they will be having a secured key. That key will be saved on the servers. So based on the username or user ID and that secure key, they will use some kind of encryption. There are some kind of 120, 148 encryption and all. Nowadays we are using 128 encryption for all the banking websites. You can see this error and all. If you're logged out, I mean there is some encryption errors also you can see. I mean if you're logged out improperly. So your user ID would be encrypted using that secure key. That secure key would be stored on the server itself. So based on the combination of the username and the secure key only, the token would be generated. So even if the hackers have hacked that particular token, they are not able to decrypt the data without having that secure key. That secure key would be stored on only on the servers in our microservices.
Okay.
So by getting that username, the microservices will decrypt that code using that secure key only. They will get the proper user ID. Otherwise, even they don't know that. So based on that user ID, the authentications will be happening. You
Okay.
got a overall flow, right?
Yeah, the flow.
You
Yes.
can, yeah, you can explain this. I mean, this would be some general questions like how you will authenticate and authorize the users, and how you will access the database. That's also for I mean all the technologies having their own modules to create and access databases. If it is Node.js, and if you're going to connect with MySQL or any NoSQL DBs, we have a separate npm module. Suppose if you're going to connect with Couchbase or Mongo, we have Couchbase Connect and Mongo Connect modules. Using that modules, first we will create connections. In the same way, in Spring Boot or Java, also we'll use connection pools. First we'll use, there will be some jar files to connect with databases. We'll install that jar files in our system, I mean in microservices, and we will first create the connections, then we'll access the data.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. And for connecting between the database server and our own server, that is the microservices also, we can use encrypted username and password.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You got it right. So
Yeah.
then that time that would be highly secured for hackers.
Okay.
Generally, banking website would be highly secured for this kind of thing. They will use so many encryptions, so the data shouldn't be lost in the network. Okay, and how connecting downstream system also, right? I mean, getting data from some other systems, and the data will be passed. And the questions we can be asked for cache systems. Cache systems in the sense there is a cache called Redis. Okay,
Okay.
I'll tell you one example. In generally, microservices. I mean, in Netflix and Comcast and all that, right? The video streaming websites. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have your own login, you can log in and you can see for a
Yeah.
particular week or particular day, you can see some of the series would be going on, right? That
Yeah.
won't be changing for the particular week, but that can be changed only by the next week, correct? And for, I mean, if they're going to post some episodes by today, they won't change it by today, but by tomorrow they will be having some different episodes on the same time, correct? So technically there is some data that is constant for a day or a week, correct? For these kind of systems, so as a user when you are logging in, they won't every time they won't be connecting with the database for getting those information about those episodes. For example, so what are the shows are there for the week or for the day? I mean there would be so many episodes, right? I mean in all the channels. So what they will do is, I mean, if they used to connect every time for the database for getting this data, or the downstream systems for getting this data, the latency would be very high, right? In the user, they will see some processing symbol. This would be keep on loading.
Mhm.
Okay. For avoiding that, general systems will use some caching system. For example, Redis. You can use this word also. Redis, Redis. Okay. So
Mhm.
we have Redis for Node, and I think we have Redis for Java also. So the Redis is a layer. It's kind of caching database. So for the first time, how the flow will work is you will check on the Redis data. I mean, whenever a user is logging in, they want to see the list of the episodes. They will connect to the Redis. I mean, technically, the microservice will check on the Redis cache basis, and if there is no data in the Redis, that will directly connect to the actual database or the downstream systems. Again, that will take the data and put on the Redis, not directly to the users. Once the data is updated in the Redis, it will send back to the user. So for the, and we can set a limit for that, the data updation. Like this data can be retained till today. If it is some today day by day episodes, or if it is a weekly episode, means for the next whole week the data won't be changed. So I don't need to again try to refetch the data from my Couchbase. So like that we can set the expiry times for the particular data. So again, whenever the same user or the other users are trying to hit a weekly data, we'll directly take the data from that Redis cache instead of directly connecting with Couchbase. Sorry, database.
Okay.
You got it right. This is called some caching system.
Sure.
So it is to avoid latency. Generally, all the high performing, I mean, high latency systems or highly dependent on the downstream systems will use these kind of techniques, caching the data. Okay, you may
Mhm.
get questions on this also. I'm just giving you some overall flow or a story. You can just have hear it, and based on that you can
Yes,
say
yes,
that.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes. And other than that, would be I mean, Java should have a look on. I mean, JavaScript also. But if it is Angular 2 means
I
better you can
mean,
have TypeScript.
in the first call, they asked all the basic, I mean, HTML, CSS, some of JavaScript questions, even of this Angular 2 and all. But the next is mostly for the microservices because they haven't asked any question of the microservices. That's why they wanted to take one more round on that.
Okay, okay. So most probably next would be microservices. Okay.
Yes, yes. And
Okay, and I think now we got some idea about the
yeah,
microservices, right?
I
What is
got an
microservice?
idea. Yes,
Yes.
yes. Thank you so much.
Okay, you can talk with this. Even now we are having some gateways, right? That's also develop, I mean, we can deploy this as a microservices in some server, and we
Mhm.
can expose it as using a particular port. So anyone can hit this, and they can get the response from this. This is a small microservices.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And today we'll see. Okay, in the code level today we'll see something like in real-time examples. So in this, you are able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yes. So in the JSON service 2, we have something called alter downstream details or get downstream details. What we are doing is we are hitting some service URL, and that is giving us a response, right? So give me a minute, I'll connect with my charger. It is low in battery. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Priyanka. So in this particular service, what we are doing is we are just hitting one service, and based on that response, we are trying to alter the data and we are sending back to the UI. So, but in real-time examples, there would be so many asynchronous calls inside a particular service. For example, we may directly connect to the database. We will take some data. Again, we will parse the data. Based on that, we will again send a particular data to again some other downstream systems, and we will take some data again. We will do some manipulations, and even for CRUD operations, we will first get the data with the Couchbase using some get calls. Again, we will update some of the data on that JSON. Again, we will put that back to the database. So there are so many asynchronous operations will be coming into the place in some real-time scenarios in a particular service. So how we are going to handle that? We'll see today about that. Okay, so now we are going to do some more asynchronous operations. Now you have an idea about asynchronous operations, right?
Yeah.
So everything would be handled based on the callbacks. That is asynchronous. Okay, so first we'll take some synchronous URLs. So for this also we can use the same request response website. They will give us some response. We'll write another module inside this. We'll name it as get multi-data.
Just getting marketing calls.
Yeah, sure, sure.
I'm just not responding. It's busy. They just call all the time and then get all my details, and then at last they ask for my passport number or LinkedIn ID. And I was like, no, I cannot provide you.
Priyanka, can you continue?
Yeah, sure. I'm just waiting
Uh,
for you.
oh, sorry, I thought you were in call and I was waiting for you.
No.
Okay, so okay, we're going to do is we're going to do some more than one asynchronous operation in a particular service and how we are going to handle that. Okay,
Okay.
so let's take some URL. This is URL one, and this can give us one response. This is variable 2 with the name URL2. So, okay. Okay, first what we are going to do is using the request module, we are going to hit URL1. That will give us some body. If that is error, we will throw the error to the callback. If it is not error, again I want to make another request call inside that. I mean inside the success of that. For example, that can be the URL2. Body. Okay, so if error, again I'm sending that to the callback. I'm just putting one console for ensuring that this is coming inside. Error in loop 2. Yes, it is a success. I'm going to do some operations with the true data. Here, the first problem is you can see that there is a scoping in the variables. I think you know about the scopings, right? In
Mm-hmm.
JavaScript, if you are using one variable, that scope would be passed to the entire method. Here we are using one variable called error, error and response and body. So here also we are using the same error, response and the body. This is an inner method inside this outer method. So these two scopes will get collapsed. If you try to access some error inside this method, this will give you as the outer method value. Or if you were try to get the outer method value, I mean the error will be working. This error will be working properly here, but not here.
Mm-hmm.
So the scopes will get collapsed. In JavaScript, generally we'll say this as the concept of closures. Do you know about that, or do you want me to explain more? I mean the
No.
scopes. No?
The global and local.
Yes, correct. So there are two kinds of variables, right, in JavaScript. One is global variable, another one is local variable. Global variables is something common that is outside you are using, and the local variable is that is written inside a method, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Here this ER or the response and body are the local variables of this method. Generally in JavaScript, the variables are having scope inside the method only. Okay. But in TypeScript, you can have a block level scope. That is a different concept. But generally in JavaScript, if you are using some variables, that scope would be available to the end of that method. So here we are using error, response, and body.
Mhm.
This scope would be available till this. So you can access that error and response body to this till line number 59, 52 to 50 line. You cannot access this error response body out of this method. In the
Okay.
same way, for this error response and body can be accessed to the entire method. That is from the line number 47 to the 63. Correct? So this is outer method and this is inner method. Now the problem is we are using the same name of some variables that is there in the outer method for the inner method also. That is error, response, and body. Correct?
Mhm.
So if you are printing the body here in the console log, this will give you the body of the outer method. In the same way, if you try to print inside this method, that is the scope of this inner method, inside this block, this will give you the body of the inner method, not the body of the outer method.
Okay.
If you're confusing, I can show you some examples.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's have a small example. Till okay, let's have an example for scopes. Okay, I'm going to. So this is a method. What I'm going to write is I'm going to create one variable here. Okay,
Mhm.
variable a equal to 5. Again, I'm writing one method. I'm writing a method here. And one minute. Let's have variable a equal to 6. I'm trying to print the value of 6. It is method. Then I'm calling this method. And This is the value in outer method. Let's write in your code. This is called test route. Let's restart the server. There is some error is thrown into. So no app.js only. Okay, it is asking for some HTTP errors module, so let's install that. Okay, got it. For sending morning, I tried to send you the code, right? That time I removed node modules. So we need to reinstall that.
Okay.
It's not. Only increment is not working. Okay, before that. Actually, this is called developer tools. Do you know this?
No.
Okay. Because in Angular, you may get questions regarding this also. How will you debug Angular code? And how will you debug the services that is made to the server, microservices? You can use developer tools for that. We can run some JavaScript code in the console here. In the networks, you can see if some requests are going to that. You can see that I have made a request from the browser, and you can see that request details here. The headers of the request. This is the response that is came back from the request. So this is called developer tools. So let's try to run this code here. I'm just trying to run the test1 method. So you got there is a difference. So I have written a small JavaScript method. So I am using variable a. I am passing a as a parameter in this method. Okay. So at the first level, I'm passing that 0 as the value. So when I'm trying to print that a, it is 0. Again, I'm creating another variable, with the same name, variable a equal to 5. So this variable scopes will be till this end. So here I'm creating another new variable with the same name, and I have written one small inner function inside that is test. And out of that method, I'm just trying to print the value of the a. Now the value of the a is not 0, it becomes 5. Got it? In the second console, we got the value 5. So the value of a is polluted here. Again, I'm just calling this method test. The test method is an inner method here. So now inside the test, I have given the value of a equal to 6, and I'm trying to print that 6. So now I'm trying to print, and the value is 6 here, not the 0 or not even 5. You got it? So the reason is this value a scope is to the end of this method.
It's
So
global.
this is, yes, it's global method. It would be available everywhere inside that method.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing is I'm just trying to override that value here. So even if I try to print that value of the global a here, I won't get the global value. I'll get the local value that is I have overdone. But again, inside this inner method, I'm overriding here equal to 6. So that value or the scope of this EA is overdone in everywhere inside this method. So this is how a particular scope of a variable works.
Okay, yes.
If we are using the same name for a variable, that will collapse in different ways. Simply scope of a particular variable would be to the till the end of the function. It's
Mm-hmm.
a global variable, and its variable would be 6 will be available from here only. If I
Sure.
because in this console, that is this outer method console, I'm not getting the value of the 6 because the value of the 6 is available only inside this inner method, that is test.
Mm-hmm.
Once this method is run, its value will be gone. That's why I'm just getting only in inner method I'm getting 6. In outer method its value is 5.
Mm-hmm.
Can you able to understand the difference?
Yeah.
Okay. So in the same way, in this method also, if you try to connect with different asynchronous calls, generally the first argument would be error. So the first problem we'll face is the scope mismatching. Mistakenly, we may use the same variable here. This is called a callback cell, a small sample of callback cell. Here also we are using error, response, and body. So we should be careful in using variables. So for first URL1, this method, for this entire method, we have used the error, response, and body. So if error is coming, I'm just printing in the console and I'm sending back. In the second method, I should use some different variables or error2, response 2, and body 2. So if it is error2, I will print it as error2.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, instead of getting the error2, I'll get error1 here. So I should properly handle the things.
Oh.
Okay, error2 and else. In the else condition, I'll get the response of the URL2. So URL2 is page 2 here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one global variable here, variable array. Array equal to, I'm creating one array. So I'm getting the first response here and the second response here. I'm going to add both the values here. That is array dot push. I'll get the data is an array dot array dot push of body. And again I'm trying to push body 2. So based on these two responses, error 2 else condition, I'll make one callback. So I'll send null for error. There is no error in here. I want to pass the array. So simply in this method, what I'm doing is I'm just doing two asynchronous calls. One is URL1 and URL2. First, I'm getting URL1 data using this request method. If I'm getting any errors, I'll just sending back using callback the error. And I'm trying, if I'm getting the success instead of error, again I'm making one more service call used for the URL2. And if URL2 is throwing some error, again I'm calling the same callback with the error response. If there is no error in URL2 also, I'm just pushing both the response of URL1 and URL2 inside an array, and I'm just sending back this array to the So simply, so the first here for making the final array, I need two responses from two different asynchronous calls. One is from URL1 and the second one is URL2. So based on the two response, I'm just sending back to the URL. So let's run this. Before that, we need to install. Now we have restarted the server. So let's get this value, get multi-data. Let's connect the service with the router. I'm going to write a new route for this. Let's name as get multi-data. Let's link the service with the router. I don't want any variables. I'm directly passing the callback. So for the changes, again, I'm restarting the server. So let's hit with get multi-data. I'm hitting the service. Okay, it's throwing some error, let's see. Line number 44 in app.js. Okay, this is running error. Let's put on console here for checking whether the flow is coming to this area. Okay, I'm restarting the server. So now let me check. No, our console is not yet print. So the control flow is not going till to that level. So we need to find where it is stopping. So we'll check here whether it is coming to the service layer or not. Okay, multi-data. Okay, we're starting the server. Even that is not coming to the service. So there is some issue in the root level itself. Even this console is not printed. So Actually, we were changing in different code base. We have moved our code base from desktop to the D column. That's the reason it is not throwing. So let's open. So this is the reason actually we were editing in different code base. So now let's write a route for our get multi. And this we'll name it as get multi data. This will be the route, and I'm going to point as this get multi data service in my route. I'm just pointing now, and let's have a try now. So let's hit get multi data. So now we got the data. You can see here we have two data objects. One is this one and another one is this one. This one is taken from one service call. This one is taken from some another service call. Both are two different service calls. You got it?
Yeah, the two
Okay.
URLs. Mm-hmm.
Yes, two URLs. And based on that, I mean, how we are making is we have a dependency on the first data for the data 2. Then only we can make this array as a full array. So that's how we are taking the first data. Again, in the success of the first data only, we are taking data here. Suppose if some errors are coming here, in this case, if some errors are thrown in the first level itself, then the second layer won't be working out. I mean, the second URL2 won't even go. It will simply throw the error to the front end. So let's have an error example. Here you can see that There is an error. User 23 is not found. So now I'm making the first. I'm going to change the first URL. This will be giving us an error. So I'm trying to hit now. Now I'm trying to get the data. But this has given us an empty response, not the error response. So let's make our own error here. So this. Now you got it. No response is coming back from here. And in the console also, we have seen is here. What we are doing is, previously the first one gave some data and the second one also gave some data. Now we are trying to manually create one error here. So the error equal to new error. So the console loop is going into this error condition. Error ds is error. So in the console you can see that console error ds equal to some error that we have made, user not found. So as the first layer of synchronous is giving the error, it's not even going to the else condition, and the second layer is not even working. So simply it was throwing some error to the backend. You got it?
Yeah.
This is how an asynchronous, looping of asynchronous flow works. This is simply a looping. We are writing some callbacks inside a callback. This method is called a callback method for this request call. Again, inside this method, if everything is success, again we are writing one more method. This is callback 2, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So in real-time scenarios, this is a small example. We have written only 2 examples, but in real-time scenarios, we may get to do so many asynchronous calls with dependent results. For example, 2 can have a dependence on 1, and 3 can have a dependent on 2, and 4 can have a dependent on 3. So in such scenario, how we used to write? In the same case, if you want to make some more that URL, how you used to write this one? Again, we need to make if it is the error, the console will go to the error console. If it is success, again we will write some consoles inside here. Sorry, again we will write one more request call inside here, and here we can name it as URL3. Again, we are pushing this data. We need to make the name as body3. Again, this is body3. This is response3, and this is error3. I'm in the loop 3. This is error3. Let's take some different one. Again, we have some URL 3. Okay, that URL can be anything. So now it is going inside loop of loops. One request inside the success. Again, I'm making URL 2. Inside the success, I'm making URL 3. Again, and based on all the results, I'm pushing into the array and I'm sending to the final callback. Correct? These kind of scenarios will be happening in the real-time scenarios. First, let's check how it works. I'm hitting the data. Okay. Still, I'm throwing the error. It is throwing error. Now I'm commenting the error. I don't want to throw any error. I want the success message. Again, I'm hitting the data. You can see here 3 objects are coming, correct? But everything
Yes.
is coming based on asynchronous calls. So just think, if it is for the small example, it is making too much of confusion, right? Error else inside the loops I'm writing numbers for URL 1, URL 2, URL 3. But in real-time examples, it will make us hell to handle all these things. This is a word called callback hell. Generally, Node.js developers used to say like this. This is a callback hell, writing callbacks inside a callback, again inside a callback, again inside a callback. There is a looping of callbacks. Correct? It's really making annoying. So there is a method to handle these kind of scenarios that is called asynchronous. You can find one npm module called async npm. So in real-time scenarios, they used to do this module, that is asynchronous modules, for handling these callbacks or multiple callbacks. So we'll have an example here. Let's keep on loading. Talks. So this is an npm module async. They have given so much of useful methods for Node.js. All these are used to control asynchronous flows. I mean, writing, looping of asynchronous, iterating asynchronous things, everything. So let's see some of very useful things for avoiding callback hell. That one is, you can see so many things in the control flow. Mainly used things in many projects or something like this parallel. Again, this waterfall. Again, this series, those kind of things. Let's see one example how a waterfall works.
Mhm.
Okay. Here is an example of a waterfall. So this is get multi. Let's write another method. Get multi waterfall. So in this method, I'm going to use this waterfall method. Simply the use of waterfall is instead of writing the multiple loops of callbacks, we can write everything as in individual functions. Here is the asynchronous function 1, here is asynchronous function 2, here is asynchronous function 3. So, and once all these functions are completed, this will call the final callback of this. So if you're writing URL1, URL2, URL3 here, this method would be becoming once we got the data from all the methods. If any of these methods throws some error in between, it will immediately send back the error and it will stop the flow of the execution. So simply as same as looping of callbacks, that is inside writing this, writing a callback inside the success of another callback, we are using this waterfall method. Waterfall method just, as the name specifies, water is falling from one bucket to another bucket. So this is like bucket 1, this is like bucket 2. So in the bucket 1, if it is giving you some response or some value, that will be passed as an argument to the bucket 2. Here the 1 and 2 are the two arguments. That is the success of first asynchronous method, and that is passed as an argument to the second method, argument 1 and 2. And 3 is the response from the bucket 2, and that is passed to the bucket 3. That is an argument 1. And once all the buckets are completed, that is done, you will get the last final callback would be executed. Simply we can send our response back from here. Do you got it right? What I'm saying? The flow. This is using on asynchronous waterfall. So in real-time examples, most of the times the people will use to do this. In interviews also, if it is not interview, you may be asked this question: how will you handle callback hell? You can, and asynchronous, multiple asynchronous calls. We can use this async module, async.waterfall series, and parallel with answer. And there are some other ways also handling using promises and async wait also. But this is one of the best way we used to do. This would be highly readable also. So let's implement this one now. Now we are using async.waterfall here. And the first method, and I'm using the same thing, 3 URLs. I'm just declaring at the top of this method. And in the first bucket, I'm going to write one request call. But I'm going to hit request URL1 and URL1 and response 1. And in fact, I don't need to use error1, response 1 and all, because anyway we are using waterfall. So only one response and body will be used inside this method. Callback error loop. So this is bucket 1, and inside bucket 2, I'm going to write the same kind of thing as we did, but this is for URL 2. And in the bucket 3, I'm going to do the same thing for URL 3. So once all these buckets are ready, I'll send my final callback here. So here the question is, I hear a small twist here, because as I said, the mixing of scope here, the callback is a variable that has the scope for this full method. So if you use the same callback variable here also, inside this waterfall, the variable scope would be get collapsed, correct? So let's rename this callback as just a CB, because this is the final callback that is coming from the root. These are some inner callbacks for these particular methods. So once all 3 buckets are done, data is coming from bucket 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and 3 to the final one. Final one is my CB. I'll just send success result here. And there is a small modification here. if it is in the URL one, I'm getting the body here. So I'm just sending this body to the my next callback. This callback is the next bucket call. So I'm putting body here, means this body would be available in the next bucket. So the like water is coming from bucket 1 to 2. Okay. So from this 2, I'm just making one request call from here. This is having its own body. So let's rename it as result for avoiding the scope of variable collapsing. So as it is also having its own body. So, but in this result, I'll get the output of this body. Okay. I mean the output of the first bucket. This is first bucket. And this is second bucket. So in the second bucket, I'm making one service call to URL2. And that's also having its own body. So that body is sent back to the next callback. So I need to receive that body here in the name of result. So this is how the body is flowing from here, from URL 1 to 2 and 2 to 3. Okay, but I'm not using this result. That is the body 1 inside the bucket 2. So next what I'm going to do is I need all the buckets and all the body values to be coming to the my final callback. So what I'm going to do is in the first bucket or the first method has returned some body here. So that value is available in this result. So I'm just going to pass the same value to the next bucket also. So here I'm passing two parameters. So in the first bucket, only one parameter is coming, and in the second bucket, I'm taking the first value also. I mean the output of first bucket and the output of second bucket also. So here the result 1, and I have something called the result 2 also. So this is the receiving end. So in the third bucket, now I got two bodies from the upper buckets, and I have my own body also inside third bucket as the name of body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass all three to the sequence level. So body, result 1 and result 2. Got it? It's a bit confusing, right?
Little bit. I mean, the explanation on the example we got, it was easy, but then writing the if else condition inside that is confusing.
Yes. Okay, we can have an example of that small thing also. But why I'm writing these many things is in real time examples, you will face these kind of things. You won't get a small examples like this. I mean, 1, 2, 3. I mean, you can understand with this example. That's why I was trying to write that code, because you can see this. These are not an asynchronous calls. They are just making the callback, and just for the example, they have passed two values.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I'm here. I'm trying to make a real-time asynchronous calls. If you again see this video back, you'll get a better understanding. You can see
Yeah.
line by line, and you can compare with this also. I'll do one thing. I'll just copy this and I'll make a comment over there. You just compare. Okay. So what is we are going to do is we are trying to do the same thing. I'm just commenting here. You can compare these things with this. Here in the first callback, they are passing first one null as for the error and 1 and 2 for the next bucket. And argument 1 and argument 2 are the receiving end of the first bucket. Okay. Here, 1 and 2 are the sent from the first bucket. Let's think this is bucket 1, bucket 2, and this is bucket 3. Okay. Bucket 1, I'm passing two values, 1 and 2. I'm receiving those 1 and 2 in the bucket 2. Okay.
Yes.
Is it confusing?
Yes. I mean now.
Okay, okay, no problem. You just have a look on this. I mean, the next
Yeah.
class also we'll have a more look into that. Okay, you just hear the story simply. So in the bucket 1, simply I'm just passing two values out from the bucket 1. I'm just receiving two values, argument 1 and 2. But I'm not doing anything with argument 1 and 2 here. I'm just simply passing 3 from the bucket 2. This is bucket 2, and I'm just receiving this 3 in the bucket 3. This is a waterfall. Just think, the water is coming from bucket to the bucket. So this argument 1 is the value of the bucket 3. And once this is done, I'm just going to the final callback. I know it would be a bit confusing. We just have a look on this video again back. I will get to more understanding. In next class also we'll have some other examples like this.
Okay.
Okay. So in the same way, I'm using 3 URLs, URL 1, 2, 3. This is bucket 1. I'm passing the body is the result of bucket 1. That is the result of URL 1. I'm sending to the second bucket. In the second bucket call, I'm just passing the own body and the result of the first one. So this result is also passed here. And here, this is the receiving end of the third bucket. So because now the body is assigned with result 1 and the result is assigned with result 2. So I'm not doing anything inside this result 1 and result 2 inside this method. I'm just simply passing out this result 2 and result 1 and result 2 out of this method and this body. So after all these 3 buckets from the callback, I'm just sending 3 values, 1, 2, 3. Those 3 values I can get at the final callback. So if you now I'm sending as a result, you can see that simply I'm just passing as a single word as a result. Everything would be assigned as an array and it would be sent back to the front end. So let's have a running here. Okay. So this is a service for get multi waterfall. Let's write one route for this. I'm just linking with the service. I'm restarting the server. Get multi waterfall. I'm just entering the data. Okay, there is an error. Okay, what is this? So in the console, we can see that /get multi waterfall is printing. So it is coming to this level and get multi waterfall. We don't need this line at all. Again, we're calling to the get multi waterfall from here and we're sending response back. Okay, let's see whether it is properly linked or not. Okay, it is linked and the argument is also single argument. Let's go to one console here. I'm inside waterfall service. Again, I'm trying to run. So see, I'm inside waterfall service also here. So the flow is coming from the root to the service. But we are getting error because we have used something called async. Async is an npm module that is not yet installed here. So first we need to require async. So why I'm making is you should understand what will happen if you are using something not defined variable. Here async is a variable that is not defined anywhere, correct?
Yeah.
You can see this. There is no async is available, only one async. So we need to define. So this async should be, as we are using this async as a module, we need to require that first. So I'm going to require async equal to require of async. So now let's run. But now also we'll get some other error. This error will throw like the async module is not yet installed, or it is unable to find the async module. You can see here cannot find async module. That means we have used async module, but we are not yet installed that inside node module. So let's install async module now. npm install async hyphen save. Okay, now let's start. Now we don't throw the error, and you can see in packages and also the async is added now. Got it?
Mhm.
So now let's hit it. Sorry, the server is not yet started. It's showing callback is not defined. Actually, we didn't remove the unwanted code below. Now we got the data. So now you can see that all the data is coming as an object. Here, let's show you. Okay, there is a tool called Json Editor online, which will show you the JSON data in a good format that can be a readable one for us. So let's put the data here and we can see it. So this is the output of my request. You can see this data is having 3 values, correct? One is actually you can see here only one data object has been coming, but we have made 3 requests, right?
Mhm.
So the reason is, as it is a waterfall, the first bucket data is coming to 2 and the second bucket data is coming to 3. In the inside 3, we have 3 responses, but at the final callback we have only one result. So what we need to do is we need to pass or assign everything here, like variable array equal to array and array dot push of result 1, result 2, and result 3. Here let's have result 1 result2 and result3. In the result1, the body will be assigned. Result2, result1 would be assigned. Result3, here the result2 would be assigned. Okay.
Mhm.
So now we are pushing all these three values inside an array, and I'm sending back that particular array in the callback. So now let's restart. Now I'm hitting the service. Now you can see we have got three data, all the three that is coming as a sequence. Got it?
Yes.
It's a bit confusing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but it is one of the very important concept in the Node.js, how we are going to handle so many asynchronous calls in a service. So you just have a look on this. Again, we'll discuss about this in the next session also.
Yeah.
If you want me, again today also I'll explain this now.
And,
Do you want me to explain now also, or you can have a look back?
I will watch the video again and then.
Okay, okay, okay. Just have a look and you just let me know if you're
Mhm.
confusing, because it is very mandatory to understand these things.
Yeah.
You're going to write some real-time examples. Because just small 1 and 2 examples won't help you in real-time site. That's why.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, Priyanka.
Okay, thank you.
Bye bye. We'll see you later.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll do one thing. I'll send you this updated code in the mail. Again,
Oh,
you can download this code,
yes.
this
Oh,
latest waterfall code. Morning I
okay.
sent you this first very small example site. Just have
Mhm.
a look on this and you just let me know. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.